How'd you feel about that secondary today, man? I couldn't contain myself. I literally the reaction I was given, that was like every time Curry made a play, every time Branch made a play, every time even it was mainly the safeties. That safety
Terry
duo,
looked good
man.
too.
Hey man, with Kirby,
Terry looked good. Terry had his moments.
with Brian, man, with Branch and those guys, man. Listen, all I know is that a lot of people were asking, do I think they're probably the two best safeties, in terms of a tandem running the secondary in the NFL? I think you got to make an argument for that. Like they're playing
Right?
together. The secondary is going to continue to get better. The confidence is beaming. I'm also seeing them. They have, and Aaron Glenn, I'm gonna give it to him, man. He is basically saying these guys are going to learn by fire. He's letting them play man when he says, you know what, I think we need to play man. It doesn't matter. Is he trying to mitigate exposure and all those things? No, because those guys are going to learn fast and quick. And that's been kind of the mantra, and that's been kind of the development process. If you look back at all the players that this team has had to develop over time, because remember, we got some guys who weren't high draft picks that came from different places that weren't playing in positions that we thought they would succeed in, and they've had some guys come and go until they get the right fit. And these aren't all first round picks, right? They're willing to get rid of a first round pick to get a guy that they know that they are willing to be able to develop to come in and
Mhm.
play right up under a system. And that's what we're seeing because they're letting them play. They're letting them make mistakes. So when we criticize and say, oh, another PI, right? Or we see another hold, or we see a mistake that gets made, it's okay because you know what? The more that are getting made now means the less you're going to get made as this team starts to develop. So I'm cool with that. I just don't
Yeah.
want it to cost us games. But at this point, man, the secondary, I thought that was going to be one of the weak points. And I will say this: there's only one threat that they had to worry about, and that was really Marvin Harrison Jr. Right?
Mhm.
I know this team is going to struggle when they have multiple guys. We know that. So that's where I'm going to see them get tested a little bit more. So I'm not going to sit here and all of a sudden say, they're there. I think they're going to get tested when they have teams that have that combination of receivers and running back, and they have a viable tight end that can hurt you.
And I just need the people that were talking bad about Kerby Joseph last year, the people
Yeah.
of the fans that
From
were
the front of the
throwing
room.
dirt on Kerby
From the front of the
Joseph's
room.
name last year. What's going on now? I said he was going to lead the league in interceptions this year. He's getting off to a pretty darn close to that. You look at what he had to cover for last year. Carlton Davis let up the most yards, or not Carlton Davis.
Cam
I'm sorry,
Sutton.
Cam Sutton
Yeah.
let
Watch
up
your mouth. Watch
who
your mouth.
let up the most yards in the NFL in one-on-one coverage last year. Now you have Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis who can stay attached to their man. So Kerby can just play free safety, play that center field, and be the ball hawk that he is. We see him. He is the father of Aaron Rodgers. He is now the father of Kyler Murray. Like I love Kerby Joseph. Him being free, open, and getting to the ball is the best time for him to play. It's awesome to see.
He got his pick, and then there was literally a play today where either one of them could have got a pick. The
Yeah.
fact that they both were there, it ended up getting dropped. Like it was beautiful to see. It's honestly, I know we had Glover, just shout out to GQ, and anyone else who came before
Shout
then,
out
I may have
GQ.
missed. But like in terms of just tandem, well, actually, Hedabo was really good that year too. But in terms of tandem, like, this is the best tandem in my lifetime that I've got to like witness live.
Let me do this. Now, I don't want to start poking holes or sticking a pin in anyone's balloon. The time of possession, we when you can't sustain drives as an offense, and you can't get your running game going, which you're the fourth ranked rushing offense coming into the NFL for the third week, then that's where you get to be problematic because you don't get to wear down a defensive unit. You don't get to all of a sudden wear down the secondary or any of the players. So you're keeping again fresh legs on defense, and your offense is now putting your defense under duress, and you're making the Arizona team have to sit there and sustain these long drives against a methodical Detroit Lions, ground and pound, making you have to play and earn every time you get up. You need your teammate helping you get off the ground. That is a grueling thing to ask from your defensive unit. So when we find offenses that can pick them apart, that's going to frustrate them, that's going to force them into something, then that's when we need to see the collaboration between those safeties talking, because that's when the communication starts to flow. That's when the disruptions start to happen. We didn't see a lot of motion from Arizona. We didn't see them doing a lot of combination routes or plays. They were pretty much single sided, so it was easier to do combo coverages. And then Kyler Murray, I mean, he's going outside the pocket. He's just tossing a few of them up. When you start looking at it, there is no challenge in these guys having to chase anyone around. It's a fade route, cover, defend the
Mhm.
pass. So what I'm going to look at is when you start having to get around picks and you have to start making calls and you have to then start switching and you're chasing guys across the field, then you're blocking, and you're having to tackle. Their running backs weren't getting past the line of scrimmage. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
when Montgomery and also when we had Jahmyr Gibbs getting out and breaking to that second level, you get your defensive backs have to get involved. They have to get in the mix some way, somehow. So all those little pieces you chip away at a whole game, that becomes a factor. These are the pieces that don't show up on paper. So that's why I go, this is a great game offensively that helped the Detroit Lions defense because of the consistency and the drives of the offense. And then the time of possession definitely made this a game that turned the tides. And then you could see which team started to struggle.
And with
them stopping them made them one dimensional, which leaves them susceptible to making mistakes, throwing those balls up, giving Kerby and Brian Branch opportunities of coming down with it and marching the ball down the other way. The defense is really what got me excited today. The offense, I'm glad to see them going. It was kind of stalled there in the second half, but just stopping that run too, man. That's what got me going, man. The defense in total, I can't just say just stopping the run. They've been.
I want to say one last thing. You know what surprised me about the Arizona offense? You got a big guy. I didn't realize Marvin Harrison Jr. was as big as he was. And for them to leave him on the outside as much as they did, it's too easy to cover a Z receiver when you leave him on the outside. And then the fact that they weren't throwing him more inside or slants or working to where he had to take coverage inside or do some things. And if they did, he got targeted some, but I just don't think, even if that's the only threat, I just think that the high percentage trying to throw the fade on the outside or throwing a couple balls up to go get it, I just haven't seen him attack the ball that way. So I think they kind of got out of rhythm. They got out of they didn't have an answer for, hey, if you stop the running game, what do we do with the passing game? And then how do we take who is our best weapon and how do we free that person up? So again, that in-game strategy, that what if scenario that happened, it happened to Arizona and they didn't answer the bell.
That's why I was so happy with the secondary, because they put the graphic up there of the 20-yard plus shots, like the deep ball shots that Kyler Murray was taking. He was like 0 for 5 against the Lions secondary. Last week, he was 5 for 5 with 2 touchdowns. This secondary had a crash course in the first 2 games. You're a brand new secondary. You're going up week 1 against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and then week 2 against Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So you go there and you're like, okay, it's just Marvin Harrison Jr. Thank you. Like we finally only have one guy to worry about. So they look so much better than they did in the first couple weeks.